So I guess it's time now the dust has settled from Saturday night to really do a proper post-fight review. Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte. Look, I got it wrong, but hell, so did a lot of us. A lot of us, apparently according to Hatman's poll, we were giving Dillian Whyte, a 40% chance and stuff like that. G-Man and me thought along very similar lines that, later on he could get to him. Whyte could get to Fury. We got this badly wrong. And look, I know Hatman said that we ought to be disappointed, not in Dillian Whyte, but in ourselves for criticising his performance. But I don't know. I think it was a bit of both. I mean, Fury was obviously masterful. His judgment of distance, his tactics, he never allowed it to go into a brawl. And the moment, Dillian was getting frustrated, he got frustrated pretty early. He started rabbit punching, trying elbow strikes, stunning with his, he was getting frustrated quite early on because he just couldn't get to Fury. I do blame Dillian somewhat for the ploddiness of his feet and not sticking to the jab as much as he could have done and just hanging in there. But the reality was that Fury, despite the abuse that he's put his body through, he seemed perfectly fit and healthy and fast come 6 rounds. It was Dillian that looked like he was gassing, which kind of, I don't know, it doesn't make a lot of sense, does it really? But the way it was going, yeah, I mean, maybe the first round, I mean, that surprised me. I was there talking to Krabbits the Crab and saying, what on earth is he coming out southpaw? What's he doing? He looked weird and clunky. I imagine Fury was kind of thinking the same thing. What on earth is he doing? Fury can genuinely switch hit. Whyte, I believe he fought against Dave Allen southpaw the whole fight, unless I was watching one of those reversed feeds so it doesn't get copyright blocked. I'm pretty sure he did actually fight southpaw against Dave Allen, but a very different fight against someone a little bit shorter and, much slower. So that was interesting. I don't know who came up with that tactic. And I guess, actually, I suppose you could say it was the one round that maybe he got a draw in. But beyond that, I mean, he's getting jabbed up, wasn't he? Fury switched up in the second, and he was just frustrating Whyte. And I was just waiting for the fireworks to start, really. I was just thinking, surely, Dillian's going to be able to jab his way in and actually land something. He was taking some wild swings. He got close once or twice with the left hook, but they were pretty wild, weren't they? And I think it's true. I mean, look, I'll be honest, I was there chatting to my daughter and trying to explain what was going on, so I wasn't paying full attention to the fight, because we were just enjoying the event. The fact it's the first big fight we've watched together, the whole thing at Wembley, of the fireworks and 94,000, and and actually there wasn't that much happening in the fight of great excitement. It was technically interesting, but it's hardly massively exciting. And the knockout, when it came out, I was surprised. So round 6, it's true Dillian tries to square up a bit and really tries to close the range and tries to put the hurt on Fury. And I didn't even, I must admit, I barely saw the punch because I was chatting. I had to wait for the replay, and obviously they took their time to make sure Dillian wasn't dead or anything. And I know everyone's saying it was an uppercut. It's not the way I was trained to throw an uppercut. You dip if you're orthodox like me, you raise your left shoulder, dip your right shoulder, and you rip it with a real kind of curving upward trajectory on the chin. You try and snap the head back. And that's what he's been caught with before, proper uppercuts that really rip through from low to high and the head snaps back. That's what Povetkin caught him with. That's what I believe Parker caught him with, certainly what AJ caught him with. This was a little bit different. There was no tell on it. Fury just adjusts his shoulders a tad. The hand doesn't go back really. His hand's obviously low, but then again, his hand's low a lot of the time. And it's actually quite straight. It's not like a real sort of curved arc, to snap your chin back and, all that stuff. It's an upward, but fairly straight half uppercut, let's say, to compromise. It was an unusual shot, It wasn't a typical sort of uppercut that really curves, on a vertical trajectory down to high. It was, kind of an interesting diagonal thing. But then again, Fury is known for throwing punches from all different angles and being the master of having the biggest toolbox in the game, really. And I just think, I mean, Whyte, I said to G-Man on his live that I didn't think Whyte saw it, but that's incorrect, as G-Man said. Having looked at it, yeah, Whyte did see it, but literally only the moment before it hit him, so not really any time to brace. And again, it's not ripping up through his chin, it's going to catch him, you know, low and diagonally. And seeing as, you know, he's not, if you don't really swing into it with your whole body weight, of which Fury has plenty, I still don't think that should knock you out. I think Dillian's punch resistance, to me, is totally shot. If I know he's crying foul, I hadn't realised the time on the round until others said it. I didn't realise that this is literally like a second or two to go in the round. Now, maybe he should have stayed down. I didn't sort of count how long he stayed on the ground, but he seemed to get up fairly quick. If he'd have just maybe stayed on the ground, regained his composure, like Fury did in the 12th round in the first Wilder fight, if he'd have just had that little bit of nous, stayed down a little bit longer and got up at the last moment, it was the end of the round. But the problem was he got up actually fairly quickly, I think, and he's still wobbling around like a drunken sailor. And, you know, you can see why the ref waved it off. As for the shove, he's right, technically. Yeah, Fury hit the dude, stunned him on his feet, and then shoved him over. But to be honest, I mean, I think I'm about the only person that said this, other than the Sporting Icons who said it after. I think it was an act of mercy. I think Fury could have absolutely nailed the dude while he was unprotected. I mean, go back to, if you remember before the AJ Povetkin fight, Povetkin had to fight David Price, you know, to kind of get his name known in the UK. He stunned Price on his feet, and Price was just there totally unprotected, but half knocked out, but on his feet. And then Povetkin hit him with an absolute monster of a punch. Can't remember which it was now, but it seriously injured David Price. And he needed something like 30 or 40 stitches in his tongue. He had a nasty injury from it. And if you listen to David Price since then, I don't think he's punch drunk. I think he's got a serious tongue injury still. To me, he slurs a little bit despite the accent, and I think it's because of what happened with that Povetkin punch. That's just my opinion, but so maybe it was merciful that Fury shoved him over rather than hitting him with a punch. But overall, yeah, Fury was brilliant, and I don't think I fully appreciated the level of skill that Fury has, and that really it was his fight to lose. If he, you know, there are things he could have done that might have given Whyte a chance, and he didn't do them. He just was masterful. I didn't fully appreciate the levels here, but also I don't think Dillian did his best at all. He did look sluggish. He did get frustrated early. He did swing wildly. He did lose his balance ridiculously at times, but then again, he has done all his career. And yet he's beaten people that are extremely good world champions, you know, or former world champions like Parker. Gave a good account of himself against AJ. He's beaten Povetkin, albeit an aged one. Oscar Rivas, you know, it's a good win. So I do think it's a bit of both. I think that Dillian has aged, his punch resistance has gone too heavy, too sluggish, and Fury, despite being a similar age and taking a fair bit of damage over his career too, he was masterful. So, yeah, I mean, I hope Fury doesn't retire. We want to see him go for the undisputed. And to be honest, he probably will. I imagine he's just milking it to see who can offer him the best deal next, as his top-ranked deal is up. And I don't think Fury will be loyal to anyone. He'll go where the money is, and, you know, who can blame him for that? Anyway, yeah, that's my take on it. It was disappointing. I just was hoping for a bit more of a war, and that Dillian could have a little bit more success and take it later. Even if he was getting getting his head jabbed off, if he was just hanging in there, who knows, after 10, 11 rounds, maybe Fury makes a mistake and one left hook is all it takes. But it was always a puncher's chance, and I was, I had to, because my daughter afterwards, Kravis said, oh, come on, we thought Dillian was going to win, and how did that happen? Fury must have been cheating and all this stuff. And I had to be honest, look, I was a little bit over-enthusiastic about Dillian's chances. I had to say to her, look, he had a puncher's chance, it was Fury's fight to lose, and that was the truth. I just didn't expect it to be quite so comprehensive and one-sided. Had I known it was going to be, would I have paid the money? Yeah, probably, because, I still had a great evening with my daughter. But yeah, I mean, it was just a bit of a letdown. We waited a long time for this. However, I'd still like Whyte to go in with, like, say, Deontay Wilder, because totally different fighter. If he can get inside before he gets knocked out, he could do some damage on the inside. So, you know, I said initially he's shot, he needs to retire, but maybe I was hasty with that. I would still like to see the Wilder fight. As for the Chisora 3 fight, not particularly, not for me. Or maybe he could, you know, go against a few prospects. It seems he's going to fight on. I guess you have to have an element of delusion to be a boxer, and he believes that he was hard done by and Fury cheated by shoving him over. I don't buy any of that. He's not going to get the rematch with Fury, and I certainly wouldn't want to see it. But there are still fights for him. But it's just this punch. To be honest, I mean, that punch from Fury, you know, yes, it caught him unawares, you know, but it was not the heaviest punch in the world. And if that's knocking you out, could you imagine if Wilder catches you? I could see him losing within a few seconds against Wilder, unless he has a much better game plan where he just does not allow that straight right to come through. But it would still be interesting to see, you know. So anyway, that's my final thoughts. Thank you.